Hello, my name is Kevin Chuang, and I will be talking about the Sunflower Student Movement. The Sunflower Student Movement was a student protest that occurred in Taiwan. The name Sunflower Student Movement refers to the idea that sunflowers are a symbol of hope. They started this protest due to the government skipping protocol when passing the Cross-Strait Service Trade Agreement. The Cross-Strait Service Trade Agreement is the trade treaty between China and Taiwan, meant to make trading between the two countries easier by allowing businessmen of certain industries to obtain indefinitely renewable visas from the other country. This agreement has met with controversy and support. The Taiwanese people that do support it believe that this will improve Taiwan's economy, but opponents of the trade believe that this will further Taiwan's dependence on China and favor bigger companies over the small family-owned companies in Taiwan. About 56.3% of Taiwanese people opposed the treaty, while 22.3% of Taiwan supported it. Of the people that voted, 80.9% claimed that they lacked a sufficient knowledge of the agreement. Even though people have a lack of knowledge, this lack of knowledge was the reason why students protested. When the Cross-Strait Service Trade Agreement was being discussed by the Taiwanese government, the time allotted for the discussion passed. By Taiwanese law, this agreement should have been taken to a clause-by-clause review. But on March 17th, the Kuomintang Party decided that it should be submitted to a final vote without clause-by-clause review, in defiance of what was previously established by the Democratic Progressive Party. So on March 18th, crowds of students, academics, civic organizations, and other protesters climbed over the fence and entered the building of the legislature. During the occupation of the legislative building, one window was broken, a police officer suffered serious injuries, and 6 individuals had been arrested. But in the end, several hundred protesters stayed outside of the building, while about 300 of them were in the legislative floor, resisting police attempts to kick them out of the building. The protesters demanded that the clause-by-clause review be reinstated, or else they would stay in the legislature until March 21st, the day it was decided to vote and pass the CSSTA. Authorities cut off water and electricity to the building, and even ordered riot police to surround the protesters. Despite all this opposition, the students didn't let up. On March 23rd, President Ma Ying-jeou stated that he would still try to pass the trade pact, and affirmed that he was not working under orders from China. Because of this statement, student protesters also stormed and occupied the executive branch of the Taiwanese government, in addition to the legislative branch which they had previously occupied. Even though they were evicted from it in a day, 1,000 riot police officers were deployed. They used excessive force, such as water cannons and baton strikes to the head. More than 150 people were injured, and 61 people were arrested. In response to this, President Ma invited the student leader, Ling Fei-fan, to discuss the controversial trade agreement. The students wanted to discuss whether or not Taiwan needed new legislation to monitor all cross-strait agreements. But then the students declined the meeting as they felt that the president was still controlling the Kuomintang legislatures. On March 27th, Ling Fei-fan called for a rally, and about 500,000 people organized to put pressure on President Ma and for him to heed the demonstrators' demands. On April 6th, the legislative speaker promised to postpone review of the trade pact, and the student movement vacated the legislative building. This was the conclusion of the Sunflower Student Movement, and while this may seem like a small victory, it means a lot for Taiwan. It shows that the people of Taiwan are willing to uphold their democratic views. The people of Taiwan didn't necessarily protest the agreement itself, but protested the democratic process that it should have had. It's a big step for Taiwan, and this is the first time the legislative government had been occupied in Taiwan's history, and shows that Taiwan is willing to struggle for democracy. This is Kevin Chuang, and thanks for listening.